This is Rebecca.
And this is Brandon.
And we are a couple of theater nerds who are not going to remember what this intro is supposed to be. It's been like 2 weeks since we recorded.
We are a couple of theater nerds who enjoy movies and enjoy talking about movies. So join us as we talk about the movies we have just seen and
are probably going to disagree on.
This is the Drive Home Reviews podcast.
That wasn't too bad.
No, not at all. It's a gimmick now that we can't remember that.
Well, you know.
And I said it before, I'll say it again. The funny part is you wrote it. And like the first few reviews, you were like mad at me because you would hand me the script.
Not mad at
you were like, oh, I'm like, here.
Like, that meant I had to remember where I wrote this script. Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
So it has been a couple of weeks since we've recorded.
Yeah, it's not that we haven't seen movies.
No, we have a list of movies that we now have to.
Yeah, we got a backlog we got to get to. But, you know, we got sick, we got kids.
Right. And
you know.
The past week I have, you know, mental health issues like depression and ADHD, and my medication was being adjusted, and that is a struggle. It is not an easy thing to deal with. So there might have been a review, but it would not have been one that was pleasant to listen to, I think.
Or record.
So, but that got us thinking about the subject of mental health in film and how it's portrayed, and if the portrayal of it has changed, you know, especially more recently.
Well, I'll let you kind of.
Well, the early ones that I think of are things like Harvey and gaslighting. Gaslight, not gaslighting, but yeah. What are some early...
The one that always comes to mind, it's interesting you mentioned those, because to me, Harvey, I never associated with mental illness.
But he's having a schizophrenic break, right? Like
only if you believe it from the point of view of the aunt.
Okay.
Which that's one of those movies that I think you can debate about, because from her point of view, he's having a schizophrenic break. But from his point of view in the movie and the play are told very specifically from his perspective, this is just a very normal thing. It's not an issue.
But that is part of mental illness, is that you don't necessarily know that what you are perceiving and going through is not real. It's like if you have severe depression and you feel like everybody in the world hates you. Is it true that everybody in the world hates you? No, but that doesn't make it feel any less real to you.
True. That's fair.
Okay.
I always think of kind of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Okay.
You know, in a psychiatric ward, and
right.
the kind of brutal treatment of mentally ill people, and the vast misunderstanding of mental illness at that time period.
Right, and what is perceived as mental illness as opposed to neurodivergency, as opposed to just gender differences.
Yeah.
You know, you think of the women in the 50s and 60s who were put into facilities because they dared to be independent, and that ended up with lobotomies.
Yeah.
So
I think nowadays, especially recently, I think there's a greater attempt made to showcase the differences in mental illness and what it's like being mentally ill or having some kind of problem. I don't know if they're all successful.
Yes.
But I do think there's an effort being made.
Right.
But I guess whether or not it is successful is dependent on, again, kind of your point of view. I don't know how, you know.
But I think that there was a big turn, especially in the last 10 years, people being more vocal, podcasters especially being more vocal about mental health, and kind of building a community of people around. I think of like the people from My Favorite Murder and the Obsessed Network, who actively talk about, you know, their mental health issues or things they struggle with, and making it feel more mainstream, making people feel less alone.
Mm-hmm.
Social media has actually helped with that. One of the things social media has helped with. Um, and then, of course, with the pandemic and the advent of TikTok, you have more education being done about mental health issues, which is interesting for me because I grew up in a house of 4 kids, and my brother very obviously had ADHD, in the typical fashion that you would expect growing up. And then my my youngest sister was showcasing more symptoms and things when she got to be in her teen years and 20s, and then in her, I think she was probably late 20s, early 30s, my middle sister was diagnosed, and I somehow had thought that I had escaped this ADHD that I would, because I never had issues in school. I was always very focused and driven and had great grades. And then I realized a lot of my issues that I have, that I struggle with, are derived from ADHD. And I would never have known that without the education um, that the internet gives currently. And so I think that there's a more open discussion about it. And so I think we are getting more media surrounding that. I think of the movie we watched and reviewed recently, A Good Person,
Yeah.
struggling with substance abuse disorder.
I watched one last year with Sigourney Weaver. A Good House, I think it's called, about addiction and about
Hmm.
alcoholism, which was really well done.
Well, and I think that, you know, the idea of like alcohol and substance abuse disorders being treated as a mental health issue rather than a character issue in films is a big thing.
And
Um,
yeah, I just kind of out of curiosity while we were talking, just kind of looked up, movies that deal with mental illness, and you got things like the list it gives, things like A Beautiful Mind, Girl Interrupted, Split,
right?
which I think that is to a discussion of mental illness what a stump is to a tree.
Well,
you
yeah. I mean, when you
know,
have something like
that's
Split and
that's
your mental illness is being treated as
a
a,
MacGuffin.
yeah,
You
like a
know,
plot device, or and really making you into the villain.
hmm
Like that's kind of the opposite of what we're trying to do with
yeah,
mental health
exactly. Like I don't know
discussions.
if that belongs on the list because again, that's a plot device.
Right.
That's and again, I mean, I'm not a doctor by any stretch of the imagination, but I know that Hollywood loves diving into the personality disorder, well for TV and
Yes.
movies. We saw an episode of
Loner SVU.
well, I was thinking more of the episode of Lie to Me,
Right.
where he's trying to diagnose the girl and she's got 3 or 4 personalities and some of them lie and some of them don't. That was a weird way I
Hmm.
said that. Don't.
Dude.
Don't.
Girl Interrupted. What do you do? Did you watch Girl Interrupted?
Many, many years ago, like a long time ago. I don't recall it that well. It's been a while.
Well, I watched Girl Interrupted. Like my friends and I watched it multiple times. Angelina Jolie is highly recorded as my first crush on a female. Um, but I wonder if we went back and watched that, how those illnesses would have been portrayed. Like a lot of the girls who were in there didn't necessarily need to be in a mental health facility. They definitely weren't getting the care that they needed, but that was kind of the point of the movie. Um, so yeah, that would be an interesting one to revisit and see how it holds up.
Yeah, it's got other things like Black Swan.
Right.
Um,
Which that once again, a split personality disorder, or I'm sorry, a multiple personality disorder being portrayed as something villainous.
yeah,
Um,
It's got Silver Linings Playbook. I didn't like that one.
You're not a big Bradley Cooper guy.
And I'm honestly not a big Jennifer Lawrence guy, despite our
Yeah.
last names being similar. Like, I'm honestly not. I don't think she's
Uh,
bad, and I'm certainly not a Bradley Cooper person.
right, that's
You
true.
know.
That's true. I'm not sure. It's been so long since I saw that I would have to like revisit what makes that a um I guess because he's dealing with PTSD, right?
I forget. They're both dealing with something, and I'm sorry that I feel like I didn't come well researched for this discussion.
Uh well, I feel like a lot of times in the past mental health issues have been seen as either the thing that makes you special, as in A Beautiful Mind, Girl Interrupted, like the thing that makes you that manic pixie dream person,
Mm,
girl or boy, or the thing that makes you the villain. I mean, even things like Shelter Island.
yeah,
Um, but now, are they just used as a character reference point, or are they more along the lines of, are we actually seeing more accurate
I don't know, and
portrayals?
that is a very difficult question to answer from my perspective. Because I just don't know. I don't know how you answer that satisfactorily.
We have seen several movies in the past year that deal with mental health. The one with the twin girls.
Yeah, the something twins.
I cannot remember what the name of that movie
It
is.
was it was that's how memorable it was.
I know, but I know we reviewed it.
No, we
So
didn't.
we didn't review
We
it.
didn't review it.
Oh, we talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it. We didn't share it with you people because
Yeah.
we want to keep that discussion for ourselves.
uh,
That makes it sound dirty.
yeah, no.
Discussing that movie is just for us.
Well, that dealt with girls who were dealing with their own health issues by having kind of a shared delusion.
Yeah,
Twin sisters. It's a based on a true story, so it was
I saw
very.
one a while ago. It was called Lucy in the Sky, and it was based on a true story. It had Natalie Portman in it. It was either Natalie Portman or Keira Knightley. I hate to say that I can't remember. I think it was Natalie Portman, and she plays an astronaut who, and this is again a very true story, who after going into space and seeing the expansiveness of the universe, her mind kind of snapped,
Right.
and when she came back to Earth, she couldn't quite um
Bring her brain back.
yeah, and she just kind of got further and further away. I remember hearing the true story of her, how she was stalking this guy and drove like hours wearing an adult
Oh
diaper.
gosh, yes.
Yeah,
I think that they took from multiple different places, but that part was definitely based on a true
yeah,
story.
no, the whole thing was.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I remember hearing the news story and going, "Oh my god, that woman's crazy." And then this movie kind of talked about, she went up and saw the incomprehensibility of the universe, and
And if you're not mentally healthy to
yeah.
begin with, which is why they're supposed to have so many psychological dramas.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that word crazy though. That is widely regarded by people in the mental health profession as a word that you should not use in regards to people anymore.
Yeah.
Like mentally ill, irrational, possibly.
Well, what's interesting. Um, apparently, from what I understand, the word insane does not appear in any psychological text.
Maybe not
The,
anymore.
no, the term insane was coined by the legal system to
Ah,
classify people as
yes.
criminally insane or not willing to stand trial. But the term insanity, at least, again, I don't know now, did not exist within psychological um, text or lingo.
Right.
That was never a term they used.
Right. Because I mean that's so broad, and you have like when I taught social studies, I would discuss this with my students. When you have just a generic overview, anyone can be insane. You can label anybody as insane or disabled, or because um you're not giving specific details about what that entails. you know um Whereas medically, you're supposed to have a more specific label so
Yeah.
that you actually know what's going on and things can be treatable. Another one that we've watched that I felt like dealt really well with mental illness was the one with Pete Davidson and Kaylee
Oh, the Meet Cute.
Meet Cute.
Yes.
Yes. Um, so really kind of nailed in without it being um without it being pandering or without it being insulting. Really nailed in, I thought, what it felt like to be, you know, medically depressed like that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting take, and it never made her have to be the bad guy because she was struggling with that.
Yeah.
Which is something that I think is something I'm very sensitive to. we're watching an episode of House. We've been rewatching House.
One of my favorite shows, by the way.
Right, and the woman, got like postpartum psychosis and went nuts and like smothered her baby, and it was all down to celiac disease. And I'm like, oh, celiac disease and postpartum depression, you're really trying to nail me to the ground here. Like, boy, make me feel like a villain in the making there. Yeah, I think I remember an episode this past year of Lone Star 911 where they talked about the term crazy, you know, and how it wasn't necessarily something that was used anymore because it can be hurtful to people in the mental health community. And to see that on a television show was pretty new and nuanced, I thought. So yeah. Anyways, any more to add?
No, it's one of those things. Like, again, I feel like I came unprepared to the assignment because I think if I thought about it, we could come up with a whole lot of characters with different portrayals of fractured psyches, and
Right.
I hate to invoke his name here, but that was a typical character in the Joss Whedon
Right.
canon of characters. He had a lot, in almost every show he did had that character who was broken.
Yes.
Drusilla, River, Alpha in Doll's House.
Yes. I have to wonder about his fascination with broken women.
Well, Alpha was a guy.
Right, but
you got
overall,
2 to 3. Yeah, you're right.
I mean,
Or
even
2 to 1, I should say.
he kind of, not even just Drusilla, but Faith. He broke Faith down too into a broken person.
But okay, now that's getting off into a whole other conversation, because I think that was one of the most Faith was one of the most interesting characters in the entire universe, and her story arc from broken to redemption to putting herself back together was one of the best arcs there was in the entire series.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm also saying that as a person, he did Faith dirty. He basically threw everything at her and kind of made her into almost a villain.
See, but again, I feel this is a separate conversation, because I would say that was the point.
Right.
That she was supposed that's how it was supposed to be. That she was constantly, the world was coming down on her either by happenstance or her own making, and she was just getting further and further lost into it. She was, basically a reflection of Angel.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying is, that like it almost was an experiment of how much abuse can you heap on a person without them breaking. So I don't know. Joss Whedon is a touchy.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard.
Subject.
That's hard to get into these days.
Well, it's what's difficult is how do you view his work without measuring it against what he was. Like, how do
Mm.
you view it without viewing
Yeah,
him
that
feeling
is
like a
difficult.
sexist,
Yeah, that is a
an
very
abuser?
difficult.
So,
Yeah.
anyways, that's a different
That is
podcast.
a whole discussion.
But
Like, but
I think what I feel like, and maybe because I am a person who deals with mental health, um, I feel like we've gotten better. It's like the discussion we had with champions and the disability community. I feel like we have gotten better, but I don't feel like we're at a place where we can stop and rest on our laurels.
yeah.
Like, we need to keep pushing to do even better, because representation matters. We've talked about that a lot on
Yep.
our show.
Yes, we have.
Representation matters, and so healthy representation of people with mental health issues, not as villains, will make a difference in the long run.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
So now that we've talked about that,
well, you know what?
let's
That's not too bad far off,
let's
because what's his name? Star Lord does start off very depressed
mm.
at the beginning of this movie.
So after that discussion, let's talk about the Space Raccoon movie.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, we will be back after this.
And thank you for joining us after that word from Irons. Yes, irons. Do you like your clothes to be flat and hot? Then buy an iron, particularly a pink iron with a button at the top. I'm just doing an ad for what I'm seeing sitting around us right now.
Like Anchorman,
Yeah.
when Steve Carell looks around and says, "I love lamp."
Yeah, so just,
Anyway,
someday we'll get people to pay for this.
So the movie we're going to be talking about today is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yep. So the long-awaited conclusion to the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy.
So tell me how you feel about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it's hard to find people who don't love Guardians of the Galaxy. And I just remember it was such a surprise when they released the first one amidst the first wave of Marvel movies, and you had all these kind of Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and then here comes Guardians of the Galaxy, such an obscure
that nobody had ever heard of.
No, even hardcore comic fans.
And it's there were as kind of ridiculous as it sounds for superhero movies, a lot of those movies were kind of rooted in realism. The Marvel universe in the first wave.
Yeah.
Yes, Iron Man had a fancy flying suit. Yes, Captain America had a serum. And then, Thor was a god. But there was really a sense of realism in those movies. And then you had Guardians of the Galaxy, and all of a sudden we're exploring space.
Yeah, and it was such a big, bright, beautiful space opera. Like, I remember seeing it because it was on the tail of Green Lantern.
Yes.
And that just how, and again, don't we keep dissing on the DC universe, but there's a reason. This bleak kind of bland, colorless, emotionless film, and then here comes Guardian. I remember leaving Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. My best friend and I went and saw it, and I remember saying, "So why couldn't DC or Star Wars get that right?" Like, that was like, how is that so freaking hard? And then
because you have some really ridiculous things going on here.
Yeah,
you have a raccoon superhero
and a talking tree,
and I mean Drax.
Yeah, and a professional wrestler as an actor. Well, that was one of Batista's first roles.
Yeah, it was not something that on paper should have done as well as.
And then I don't think it was until the second one came out that people started reevaluating the first one and going, wow, there's actually a lot more going on in these movies,
right,
than really we kind of gave credence to before.
I think it really comes down to James Gunn.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, James Gunn.
What's interesting about him is that, well, and this is something we've talked about this before. If you're a lucky enough director to get into the Marvel universe, you're kind of made after that.
Yeah.
But prior to that, like he had done Scooby Doo
He
movies.
wrote the Scooby Doo movies. He directed a movie called Super with Rainn Wilson, which I did not enjoy.
He wrote and directed Slither,
Yeah,
which was interesting.
yeah,
But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy was really like his first.
yeah. And it just seems like he has done with all three of these again. And it's not saying that the other Marvel movies aren't about anything. I think they very much are. But this series, I think, more than most of them are about have more that they are about under the surface, and yet he puts a very beautiful shine and
And
amazing world and colorful characters, so
with
that you
a
don't,
solid sense of humor.
yeah, that you don't necessarily notice the deeper meaning at first, and it's kind of very slowly been stripped away. And this one, I feel, is mostly deeper meaning.
Right. While also floating around people in
Yeah,
floaty float like
yeah, like the weirdest aliens, Nathan Fillion in that weird
well,
security guard suit.
I think that everyone can like just just that moment at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, where Chris Pratt is coming into this.
The temple.
Yes, and that Redbone song is playing,
Hmm.
and you just knew that this is going to be different.
Yeah, that was kind of a declar. A film critic I used to have a lot of respect for used to say, like, what is the defining moment, the defining scene of a series? You know, the thing that you don't have to have watched the movie, but that gives you the entirety of what that movie is. You know, you think of Spider-Man, it's the upside down kiss.
Right.
You know, the Little Mermaid, where she's jumping out of the water for that last note of Part of Your World.
Oh yes, which we will discuss
Yes,
later this week.
yes, we will.
Um,
And for this series, I think it is that opening of the first movie with him dancing around
right.
this alien world to 70s rock. That's like a
Yeah.
declaration of principle of what these films are going to be.
And there's two parts of that little scene there that like I really want to kind of dissect is that has continued through the movies. First of all, the soundtracks
Mm-hmm.
focusing on the 70s and one, the 80s and two, and now the 90s and three. Um, I really just paint that world.
Yeah,
And there's something very fun about this retro music in this futuristic world.
yeah,
Don't you think?
yeah. But like I say, it was a very James Gunn. I mentioned this when I reviewed the Suicide Squad because he does the
Mm-hmm.
same thing there, but it felt to me like the music in that one was very kind of haphazard
Right.
because that's what James Gunn is known for, as opposed to it fits the story and the emotional drive of the characters. And I feel like the music is very important to his directorial style. I feel
I
like
would say so, yeah.
he really directs to the soundtrack, and I appreciate that. I'm one that thinks that a good soundtrack is vital to a good movie because it sets the tone and the mood, and he really directs to that.
See, and I'm not very musically driven, and so if I notice the soundtrack and I feel like it fits well, then that must mean it's doing something right.
Mm.
But the other thing is the way that James Gunn directs an action sequence is just mesmerizing.
Mm.
I am not one for car chases. Frankly, gunfights and knife fights in movies tend to bore me. But the way that James Gunn directs action sequences is just kind of hypnotizing.
Mm. Well, he masters, again, sorry to again bringing up ghosts here, but he does what Joss Whedon did very well and makes it feel like a big splash page from a comic,
Right.
where one movement leads to the next, and wherever you look on the page, it's leading you back around into a
Something new.
yeah. So he's very good at that, and he's very good at he's established his characters, he knows his characters, and he's very good at in those big action sequences of showcasing each
Mm-hmm.
character, what they bring to the table, and what their strengths and how they complement one another, how they make up for one another's shortcomings. it's a big. His fight scenes are not just fight scenes; they're metaphors for the family
that
and
how they're working together, how they're interacting with each other, and always with a sprinkling of comedy.
yeah. Well, that's another thing about kind of combining two conversations. You look at the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where
Mm-hmm.
Groot is dancing, or baby Groot is dancing around while they're
Yes.
having the big fight with the monster, and that at first that looks like just kind of a throwaway scene,
Right.
but since the one of the core messages about that film is parenting,
Yeah.
like each one of the Guardians has a parenting moment with
Right.
Groot
Taking care of
as that
him.
sequence goes on. I need to point out that is not my observation. Lindsay Ellis, um, in her video on Guardians of the Galaxy 2, so I don't want to take credit for someone else's
Yes,
observation.
Lindsay Ellis, the only woman who could steal your heart away from you.
She cannot steal my heart, but there are a few, and I'm sad that the YouTube world treated her so bad that she quit YouTube.
You know.
It's not that she steals my heart; is that you find I don't think there are many better film analysts
Yeah.
out there. So sorry that she, um,
Uh,
but anyway, so let's talk a little bit about this movie. So the core of this movie is fairly simple. Um, Rocket is injured in a fight with Adam Warlock, who was a creature designed by the Gold folks from the second movie to
right.
get revenge. But because of the specific way Rocket is built, for lack of better terminology, they can't just heal him naturally. They have to basically find the person that made him. And so the Guardians go on a journey, of course, of self discovery and reforming the family and all that, but to find our main villain, the High Evolutionary.
Played by Chuck Woody Awuji.
And if we're mispronouncing that name, we deeply apologize.
We did look it up.
Yes. And we get flashbacks about Rocket's origins, where he came from,
Yes.
and all of this ties back into all of that. So I think right away, one of the more interesting things is that the other two movies have been primarily about Star-Lord.
Yes.
They've been his story. But this is very much Rocket's story.
Right.
And paying off his character.
Not to say that we don't get a good dose of Star-Lord.
No, but it does definitely feel like Star-Lord has taken a welcome step back.
Right.
And they've put another character at the forefront of the action. And I think that's one of the reasons why this movie works so well. It's not, again, all the characters get their moments, and all of the characters, something James Gunn has been very good about with these series. But this is very much Rocket's story.
Right. And it is very much, but like you said, you do get, you get some of what Mantis is going through, some of what Drax is going through. Oh gosh, like there was a
Nebula.
moment with Drax where I just it just broke me down and I started crying. Yes, Nebula and Gamora, their interactions. Gamora doesn't remember Star because of the blip
because
and
of the time travel, and she's not
so,
the same Gamora.
Yes, and it's kind of Star-Lord is grieving the end of that relationship. So there is a lot going on with the other characters, but yeah, very centered around Rocket, which is interesting because he's in a coma for the majority.
Yeah, so we're getting, but we are getting a lot of flashbacks,
right?
And they bring in a lot of people have been waiting to see Lola Otter since the first one. Lila.
Yeah, Lila Otter, who played by Linda Cardellini.
Yeah.
So Linda Cardellini, just sweet and oh man, just these animals who are very clearly CGI. There's no hiding that.
Motion capture.
Sorry, yes.
But
are I'm trying to find the right words to say. So, of course, High Evolutionary, he is trying to perfect humanity,
He's
trying
trying
to
to perfect life. He's trying to create the
yes.
perfect life form.
And so Rocket and his group of
So,
experiments
yeah.
are part of him trying to increase, life to perfection. Um, and the whole point of the High Evolutionary is when he's done with your if he, once he has figured out how to make your species a little bit better, he's going to destroy your entire
Yeah, he'll
life
destroy
batch.
the original batch and move on to the
Which
next.
is interesting because we have been having conversations about eugenics and perfection of life and things in terms of Star Trek
Hmm.
and the civil rights movement. And yeah, it's just been a topic in our house lately,
Yeah,
a topic of conversation. But anyways, um, so you have Lila and Floor.
which is a bunny, like a bunny with like
Wheels?
cybernetic legs,
Oh,
like
right, the
spider
spider
legs,
cybernetic legs,
and
and
Teeth, the walrus with
teeth.
the wheels.
Yes, and Rocket, of course, in this group of experiments, and they become kind of a little family, like his little family before Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. Um, and I want to say this. Of course, those are some of the most beautiful scenes of the film. Um, but I've been saying this since I saw the movie. I think we need to give a huge shout out to the unsung hero of these movies, and that's Sean Gunn,
Oh yeah.
who plays what Krager, whatever,
Oh,
whatever. I can't remember
let me look it up
the
real
yeah
quick.
Krager. He's James Gunn's brother,
Kraglin.
Kraglin. He's James Gunn's brother, probably best known as Kirk from Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
Because for all of the films that Rocket has been in, he's been the on-set motion capture performer
Right.
for it, and he gets no credit. Bradley Cooper
Gets
get
the
gets the
but yeah.
credit. He comes in, he does the voice, not unjustly. He does a great voice.
Yeah.
It fits the character really well. So I'm not ragging on Bradley Cooper. But it's to say that this isn't James Brolin coming in and playing Thanos,
Right.
or Andy Serkis playing Gollum or Caesar.
I think that was Josh Brolin. James Brolin's
Josh
in his like
Brolin.
80s.
Josh
I don't
Brolin.
think
Yeah,
he
you're right.
played
Thank
Thanos.
you. This is several different performers creating one character,
Right.
and I don't think that Sean Gunn gets the credit he deserves for his part in creating this character.
But, I really loved that. Like, he started out as kind of this like silly sidekick character, Kraglin, in the first one, but like his part in the movies has grown, and he plays a pretty significant part in this one.
Well, I think that is also what stands out a little bit about the Guardians films, as even opposed to other MCU characters, is that the entire cast feels like they grow and evolve
Right.
as the films go on. And with other series, maybe the main character does, and maybe some of their, they go through name changes and get new powers or something like that. But the supporting cast stays usually fairly much the same. Wong is still Wong, without a lot of alternations to his character or his worldview throughout his many appearances. But the Guardians characters all have. I mean, Nebula was one of the villains in the first film.
Right.
So was Yondu.
And now they're um, part of the Guardians.
Yeah. So I think there has been a steady evolution of all the characters, and not just through their films, but through the two Avengers films or the Thor movie that they guest starred in.
Do you know what's interesting too? Is that you really do. There are some truly bad characters like the High Evolutionary, but you also have a lot of middle of the road characters. I mean, Star Lord himself started out as a Ravager, and the groups of Ravagers led by Sylvester Stallone, they have a certain honor to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not purely bad guys. That's not something that exists in most of the characters of this universe.
Yeah.
So let's talk. Other side characters. Let's see. Drax. Drax was an interesting one for this because we know that Batista has said
He's done.
he's done. He doesn't want to play Drax anymore.
Which I don't. I think he means right now, but you offer anybody enough money and enough time passes, it'll be like, yeah, okay, I'll come back and do a cameo.
Well, I think
I
that
mean,
I can understand him. I think that he doesn't want to get pigeonholed into
yeah,
former wrestler plays superhero, like deadpan superhero type of thing. And we've seen in the past
yeah,
year the range that he
yep,
has.
definitely. So he's so but yeah, so I'm not. I got a sidetracked. I don't necessarily. I think he could come back if he really wanted to, or if the story was good enough. But for all intents and purposes, yeah, he said this is his last outing as Drax.
Right. And I think that it really served him well.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Especially because Drax has always been the character that I think has gotten the least amount of development
right.
as the film. He's always been the comic relief
And he
of the
still
group.
serves as the comic
Yeah.
relief. He and Mantis have a really
Oh, they're
good
fun.
like the really good chemistry in this. I love this bit that she has going where he like she either makes him fall in love with random things or makes random people fall in love with him.
Yeah.
Like it's just this really fun little thing. But um what was interesting is that in the midst of all this other stuff they've got going on, they also kind of make him, I don't know, it's not redeemable because he didn't need to be redeemed, but really kind of
They explore another facet of the character piece that we knew was there because he mentioned it in the previous films, the fact that he was a husband and a father.
right.
But all of that's been kind of pushed to backstory status and never really gotten the showcase that that's a huge part of who he is.
Right. And I think that that really does come to play in this one. It
Mm-hmm.
serves him well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Mantis also trying to kind of figure out where she stands in the world because, you know, she'd been basically a slave her entire life and she doesn't really know kind of where she fits.
Yeah.
And Nebula kind of trying to like I think she's done a really good
Oh yeah.
180 and you know she's fully part of the Guardians now, which doesn't mean she's soft and fluffy, which was great. If they had made her character turn all of a sudden soft and fluffy and sentimental, that would have been terrible.
Yeah.
But she's still as acerbic and sarcastic and mean as she always was. She's just one of the good guys
Yeah.
now.
You know.
Mhm.
And of course, I think we talked a little bit about how um Chris Pratt, Star Lord, is more of the side character, but they still go in because his biggest story arc that all the nerds were mad about is how come he never got the girl at the end of the movie. You know, oh, he never got the girl. What's he got to do? You know, he saved the universe twice, and they missing the point of he's not a complete human being.
Yeah.
Getting the girl is not a trophy
Right.
that you win. It's you're just because you saved the universe.
I'm sorry. Gamora and Nebula both saved the universe, and how
Mm-hmm.
come they didn't get the girl slash guy?
Yeah.
Like, come on, nerds. At least be not sexist about your nerdiness.
Don't try not to be sexist about your sexism. I mean, and I was worried that with Gamora being back, that and this being the final movie, they were finally going to quote unquote wrap up that storyline and have them end up together.
Yeah.
And I like that they made a strong statement in this is that this Gamora is not the same Gamora.
Right.
She does not have, and it's if you're looking for a metaphor, it's kind of like someone after a breakup,
Right.
going on the rebound and going with someone who looks and sounds like the person they broke up with, and expecting them to kind of have that same, and basically saying, I'm not that person, I'm someone else, and we're not you had that thing, that person is gone, and I'm not her, so don't expect this to be a
Hmm.
and
Just so we're aware, my pink-haired tattooed self looks nothing like any of Brandon's exes.
no,
So,
no, not. You're much prettier.
so let's just take a break, and then we will talk about our overall feelings and how we feel about the ending of the Guardians Galaxy.
Hey kids, you want to be cool? Then I'll tell you how to be cool. Wear shoes. Shoes are cool. Shoes go on your feet. They protect your feet. That's what they do. That's why they're shoes. Buy shoes.
I want everyone to know that he took off his shoe and picked it up.
I most
that.
certainly did not. It's sitting over here in the pile.
Okay.
So
but
I
he did pick up the shoe.
I did pick up the shoe.
and
I
show it
was
off.
vanning it.
Yes.
So is vanning even a word? It is now, Noah Webster. I just precedented it.
So let's talk about the visuals of this movie. Does it hold up?
Oh my god. The visuals of I feel sometimes one of the movies our youngest likes to go to sleep to is Zootopia.
Yes.
And I sometimes I feel like we're living in an age where you can be so detailed and create such immaculate worlds that they're almost too good, because it's like there's so much detail you can't.
I've watched that movie probably close to 100 times, and I swear I see new details.
Yeah.
I want to live in Zootopia.
And I feel like that's kind of the thing we're in now, with especially the visuals. These films are the different locations, the different worlds, the different spaceships are all so detailed and so unique to whatever culture they're in. It's almost too much that you have trouble
taking it all in.
Yeah.
I am. This is why the list of special effects artists on these things now
Yeah.
the majority of the credits.
Yes.
Okay. So
I'm gonna jump in here on that real quick. 2 post-credit sequences on this thing, one mid-credit and one final credit. And I'm gonna tell you right now, folks, the only real problem I have with this movie is that final post-credit sequence was not worth me holding my pee for that extra 30 minutes. All right, I had to go, and I'm waiting to go post-credit, and it's like Star-Lord eating fucking cereal.
Well, I mean,
and
not
I'm like,
just like it wasn't just that he was with his grandpa. He brought up the conversation of his uncle. I feel like the uncle is going to come back in somewhere. Plus, there was something on the news. Oh, on the front of the newspaper had the joke about Kevin Bacon.
Yes, so
anyway,
still not
back to the scenery, because I have heard this rant and read it on Facebook from him multiple times. So Orgo Corp, where they go to find out the information about Rocket. Now, this is something they did in Ant-Man too. This concept of organic technology. So you have all of these high-tech things, but they're also like living. So it's like, I don't know how to explain it. Organic matter that is like surrounding you and growing and interacting, and it kind of fascinates and grosses me out at the same time.
Yeah.
But it was really cool, like really well done. I just don't know that I want to watch people hacking through like heart tissue to get into into OrgoCorp. But once we got into OrgoCorp, we had, of course, Nathan Fillion.
Nathan has, his most standout cameo in a Guardians film yet. He's been in all 3 of them, but
yes, like this, I believe they wrote this specifically for.
I mean, they could not.
It was the most Nathan Fillion-y character ever. And we say that as fans of Nathan Fillion.
This is not a diss.
No, I named my daughter after Firefly, and I don't miss an episode of The Rookie. So,
yeah.
Master Karga is who he's playing in this, and it's just like there's this bit he does about not liking his employee.
That's like all he. Yeah, it's like his whole character.
Me up, but Pretty like the whole scene there in Orgo Corp was pretty interesting, but also nice was seeing one of our guys from Superstore,
Yeah,
um,
Mateo.
Mateo, who is played by Nico Santos, was is
One.
a high evolutionary sidekick.
Now let's delve into that because I had some thoughts on like, so what did you think of the High Evolutionary as an antagonist, as a villain?
So the high evolutionary, to me, is the kind of villain that's kind of like we watch wrestling and the AEW has this group on right now called the Blackpool Combat Club, and they're the kind of villains that are the scariest because they could actually exist.
Hmm.
Um, the kind of bullies that are relentless and don't like to be stopped. Uh, and so the high evolutionary kind of feels that way to me, like somebody who believes that humans are not good enough and they have to keep constantly evolving. And it's a very racist, ableist, sexist viewpoint. Um, and I don't know. It's the kind of modern villain that actually scares me. What about you?
We talked about this a little bit when we were talking about Ant-Man. Is that we're getting into a point now with Marvel villains until they finally do their Fantastic Four or they finally do their X-Men and they bring in like Doctor Doom and Magneto. We're getting into a point now where they're starting to use their more obscure, mind-fucky characters like Kang the Conqueror, like the High Evolutionary. These are characters that are their continuity and their history is so damn convoluted. So just they've been used as MacGuffins and problem solvers. Anytime something weird happens, well, Kang did it, time travel. And the High Evolutionary has been like that as well. It's like, oh, we got to explain this weird thing. Oh, the High Evolutionary did it. You know, there's things that he made the X-Men or that one that I think recently they've tried to rejigger Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver's origin so that they're not mutants, but the High Evolutionary made them. You
Hmm.
know, so but anyway, what I'm getting at is that we're getting into that point, and of the two, I think the High Evolutionary, especially in this film, is just a much superior villain to the Kang we saw in
I would agree.
like, and apparently he survived.
Right, which
So,
is going to be interesting coming up into this next wave of MCU with the trouble that Jonathan Majors has found himself in
mhm.
recently. Like, is are they going to have to pivot? And if they have to pivot, is that a direction they can go?
I think it is, and I honestly would say I find the High Evolutionary far more interesting than Kang.
Right.
Even just in the one film that he's been in, the character, the actor, his
Yes.
driving force, his resources, I feel he is a more Thanos level threat
There's something
than Kang is.
so scary about that guy who is super intellectual and seems calm and nice and even keeled until his plan goes wrong and he just like blows everything
Or
up.
even just revealing kind of like I say, he seems all nice and wonderful um until you really think about what his plan is or what his ultimate goal is.
Yeah, our middle kid has been reading the Giver series, and that really kind of is the same concept of, unless it's perfect, destroy it. You know, um, it really just that's really scary.
Yeah.
And I think that like the concept that he thinks he is doing something good for the universe.
See, and that's what I really liked about this villain is it never I never got the feeling kind of like they did with Thanos that I'm doing this because it's right. It's just that I'm doing it because I want to. Because I think I can, so therefore I'm going to. I never got the feeling that it was he had some nobler, yet twisted ideology. It was, I can do this, so I'm going to, and
Right,
I don't
but I mean,
care.
he does have a twisted ideology like that. I mean, that goes without
But
saying. But
nothing that, in my opinion, you could really twist into sympathetic or understandable. Like, again, as evil as Thanos was, this thing of there's not enough resources.
right,
You could see where his mind would have been twisted into this
yeah, I
ends
see what
justify the means kind of mentality.
right,
Whereas the High Evolutionary is just like, I can twist this creature, so I'm going to, and
and
just
then I'm
just
just gonna destroy
and just
the.
see and just see if I can keep improving on it, because why not?
Also, when talking about the worlds again, the world, the what did they call it? New Earth? Was it
Yeah,
new? The creatures on New Earth were just like you couldn't stop looking at them.
yeah,
You
some
know?
good makeup there.
Yeah, because they are animals, but human. Kind of this mixture, and it's just so intriguing. And then the next batch of creatures he has going with the little kids,
Hmm.
um,
Like Children of the Corn, only not.
super cute, but super creepy. So
Just
yeah,
like kids.
just like kids, yes. Um, so yeah, just like you said before, fascinating world building and detailed work that they're doing there.
Yeah. So I feel like I want to give a shout out to the High Evolutionary as a villain, and I almost wish, I know that would cause them, they'd have to change a lot of whatever their plans are, but if they have to go a different way because of Jonathan Majors, I think the High Evolutionary is actually a better fit, in my opinion. I think he's
Yeah,
more interesting.
because I don't know how you would replace Kang the Conqueror.
I mean, you could get a new actor. That's easy enough.
Right,
They've done that before.
but
And you don't even have to explain it. You can just go up, time travel, boom. I mean, that's what Kang was supposed to be, just a big Deus Ex Machina. How'd that work? Oh, time travel, holy shit.
so in the scheme of things, with this being the third movie of the trilogy, do you feel like they wrapped up the loose ends they needed to wrap up?
I think so. I
Okay.
think they what I liked about this one is, in terms of a conclusion, is I like how it is kind of a conclusion to a story, but you don't feel like it's the end of the characters. I hate I hate series finales of television shows.
Yeah.
I even shows I love, I will very rarely watch the last episode, because usually it ends with everybody breaking up, everybody going off in their own direction,
Yeah.
and I always want to feel like the characters I love are still out there doing the thing that they love to do. I'm just not seeing new adventures anymore.
Right.
And what I kind of like about this one is, yeah, the family, the core Guardians kind of all start going their separate ways. They start doing different things, but the Guardians are still around. They're still a new team. Everybody's still out there. So that if they needed to, they could all
Come
get
back.
back together. And even if it never happens, the door is open. I like, spoiler alert, they didn't kill anybody.
Right.
They made you think they were going to, but they don't. And I like that it's like everybody's still here, and the adventures are still going to happen, just
Yeah.
different ways, and you'll probably see these characters again.
Yeah, I for sure thought that Drax was dead at one point.
I thought they were going to kill Drax, yeah, because
Yeah.
he was the only one who says I'm done. So I thought, oh, they're probably going to kill him.
Did Adam Warlock, does he show up in other things? Like,
Well, he's one of Marvel's cosmic heroes. So yeah, he'll, whenever Thanos or Galactus, or I don't know, I find the space stuff in comic books very boring, so I don't pay as much attention.
Which is
So
interesting because you're a Trekkie.
yeah,
But
yeah, Adam Warlock shows up from time to
I
time.
thought that was such a fun little twist for Will Poulter.
Yeah.
Like, I think that he's kind of an actor who deserves a little bit more. Like, I think we're going to be seeing more from him.
Mm.
Of course, Batista knocked it out of the park. Um,
I don't think there was a bad performance. I don't think there's anybody you can kind of point at and go, "Oh, that was terrible."
yeah, you know,
Mhm.
I mean, Vin Diesel always does his thing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Best performance Vin Diesel's ever given. I mean, Vin Diesel is an actor, and I'm saying that with quotes, who like is known for movies where he just kind of says one word over and over again. Family, family.
I used to love
This is
Vin
my
Diesel.
family. Don't mess with my family. So he's been well cast here as Groot.
I enjoy. Well, Vin Diesel is what it. Batista is what Vin Diesel wishes he was.
Yes, very much so.
Anyways, Palm Clementif, who plays Mantis, I think doesn't get enough credit either.
No.
Because she really makes you feel for this character who doesn't like have a lot of seeming depth, you know, outside of this chipper attitude.
I kind of felt like she was the glue of this film. I felt
Yeah.
like she really held everything together. That she was kind of the focal point. That everything kind of went back to, you know, all the
Yeah.
different storylines kind of
I can see that.
intersected through. So I felt like she was very vital to this film.
Yes. I think there was a lot of really good jokes and interactions, and I don't think it disappointed at all. I definitely cried through
Yeah.
the last
I'm
little
not
bit.
gonna lie. There are some moments I got a little teary eyed.
Yeah, but then you like start laughing at me because I'm sitting over there.
Just because you
bawling.
cry a lot.
I'm sorry. You knew what you were getting into.
I did.
Okay.
I did. I never.
So any last thoughts? Anything else you want to talk about Guardians wise?
Not really. I mean I've really been stretching to kind of think, okay, what wasn't great about this movie, what didn't work. And I can't really I think it was everything you were kind of hoping for a last outing for a popular film series.
I
And
feel like it wrapped up things without feeling like it was pandering.
yeah, like the only thing I could possibly get into is like it's a fucking 3 hour long
Oh gosh.
movie.
Oh my gosh, yes. It is a very long movie.
And there are it has a little bit of Lord of the Rings problems there where it's like you're watching like, okay, so they just got off of the spaceship, so that's got to be that. Nope, those people are still on the spaceship, so we gotta go back. Okay, so the movie's not over yet. Okay, so now this happened, so that's got to be the end. Nope, still going. You know, so
which is not really a problem unless you live in a small town like we do, and you get out expecting to go to dinner because you went to a 6 o'clock show, and by the time you get out of the theater, everything's closed again.
Yes, exactly. The town that feared sundown. But I mean, that all being true, that all being said, I can't think of anything really in the negative to mark this film.
I am not a fan of Chris Pratt as a person.
No.
I think his last name is pretty accurate for him, but I can't fault his performances in these movies. And honestly, his performances in general. Andy Dwyer from Parks and Rec is one of my favorite television characters of all time. So, yeah. I mean, as long as I don't have to listen to Chris Pratt as a person and just see him in movies, I'm okay.
All right.
All right. So, what do you think, honey bun?
Final grade for this one? You know, I feel like I'm handing them out a little bit too easily these days. Maybe I've softened up. Maybe I'm not the mean mountain lion I once was.
Has ruined you.
But you know, I will give this one an A plus. I'll go along with the popular consent. I think it, like I say, a little long, but you know that's what they make pause buttons for. So I mean, it's you know it's a good film. It gives you all the bang for your buck. It's not leaving anything on the table. So
I'm gonna actually, you know, hell might freeze over, but you know, I'm gonna agree with you.
What?
On this one. I know. I think it was a fun outing. It was touching, like you said, depth without being, you know, shoving it in your face. And I definitely like will rewatch this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so I think this was a really good sayonara to our characters here, or to our storyline at least. So all right.
So that was
way to go, MCU.
All right.
Kicking it out of the park again.
Yeah, and you know what? I've seen all these TikToks, all the people. They're still bad mouthing the latest batch of MCU things and saying this is like a return to form. I don't think that's true. I think the MCU is still good This is just the thing with the MCU is that they have good things and they have great things.
Well, and I
And
think
this
that
is one of the great ones.
we've talked about this before. MCU has things for different types of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're into spy movies, you're gonna like Black Widow. If you're into like fun romps with a lot of sarcastic comedy, you're gonna like Ant-Man. You know, so not everything's going to be
Yep.
Captain America Civil War.
Yeah.
So yeah, so people just need to get over it and learn that there are people who are different than them in the world. Also, you know, a lot of these people are just whiny because like there's girls and people of color and gay people
Oh yeah,
in
definitely.
movies,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, can't help but notice that with a lot of these more female-led things. They're like,
when they say true to form, they mean white cis men.
my
Okay.
penis is shrinking.
How do I know that it's good if I don't want to screw them? Anyways.
Anywho.
So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
That was a weird note to end on.
Yep. Stay tuned.
So we got a lot we're getting through today.
A lot backlog that we are going to be,
and then we're adding more. So like we're really.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, so that's one down. So thank you all for joining us. Thanks for coming along. We'll be back for us in a few minutes. For you, who knows? But we'll be back to talk about some more movies we've missed. And we're back on the air. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming along. Thank you, my love, for all you do. And as always, drive safe, and we'll see you at the movies.